So Shintani just left you hanging, huh? He's gotta learn some damn patience.
Maybe so. But this is my case now. I can handle it myself.
Huh. Okay.
Yagami-san.
Hmm?
Have you seen Mafia lately?
Where's this coming from?
She's just not that great with men. I suggest you be more assertive.
Right. Okay.
You mean that friend of yours, Saori-kun? She's got Shintani all riled up. Said he'd have been nicer to you if he knew you had friends who looked like her. Jackass.
Hey, nothing's official yet, guys. Regardless, keep it on the down low, okay?
Yet? That word says more than you think. I'll keep my lips sealed.
Mafia-kun's a prosecutor, right? Isn't it kind of taboo for her to date a defense attorney?
Can we not do this?
Either way, guess the Okubo case comes first. We're pleading innocent, yeah?
That's the plan.
What is your plan here? This isn't gonna be an easy win.
Well, I'm working on that. There's one piece of evidence that still bothers me.
Yeah? And what's that?
Take a look at this. It's the hospital room the victim was staying in. This is the last place Waku-san was seen before he disappeared. At the time, the witness would have seen Waku-san from this angle through the window in the door. But the cabinet here would have been blocking his face.
Uh-huh.
In other words, there's room to argue that the witness never actually saw Waku-san to begin with. It might have just looked like there was somebody in there. Or maybe the killer set it up to look that way.
And how would that impact the trial?
Well, the premise that the victim was still alive at 8 o'clock would no longer be on the table. Meaning, the crime could have occurred during a much wider time range. With that in mind, we could claim there's no proof that Okubo took Waku-san out of the room.
Right. Not bad.
What the hell's your problem?
Was that Shintani?
I think so.
Get back here! That bastard. Oh, was eavesdropping on you.
What the hell?
I tried to stop him, but he pulled a stun gun on me.
Hey! Wait up! You won't get away! Hold up! woman.
Help! Someone help me!
Aren't you Terasawa-san?
Let me go!
We got a groper out here? Scum of the earth! Not on my watch, you son of a bitch!
What's wrong?
Let go!
Can all lawyers fight like that?
Did you really need to run away like that? I assume you came to see me.
There was something I wanted to talk to you about, yes. But I wasn't sure if I should. Then that pig-headed friend of yours started shouting, so I just lost it.
Okay, but did you have to tase him? Not that he didn't have it coming. Anyway, I'm listening if you want to talk. No matter what it is, I'll keep your secret. Anything you tell me will fall under client attorney privilege.
Well, you know the witness who last saw Waku-san? Said he saw him sleeping in his bed.
Uh-huh.
Well, that witness is a man by the name of Shono-san. He's one of the scientists at the ADDC. Not only that, but he's the director's right-hand man, too.
And this is him?
Yes. He's a very dedicated doctor, so the nurses have a lot of faith in him. But something felt off when I heard what he had to say about the incident.
And what's that?
I guess I'm just skeptical as to whether or not he actually saw Waku-san. I don't think he's intentionally deceiving us, but he may be mistaken somehow. And if I had to guess, I'd say the other nurses feel the same.
Still, why hasn't anyone mentioned this until now?
How could we? Nurses talking about a doctor behind his back? That's not something a nurse could do without consequences. And if it came to a courtroom testimony,
None of you would testify?
maybe the other nurses wouldn't, but I would. I never really fit in over there anyway. Besides,
Yeah?
I think Okubo-san is innocent.
Oh, really? Sounds like I've finally got an ally on my team.
I'm currently employed as a researcher at the Advanced Drug Development Center. Part of our research consists of clinical tests we perform on patients in the general ward of the center. On the day of the crime, I was making my usual rounds through the ward.
And what time was that?
Around 7:50?
You're sure?
Yes, the patients eat breakfast at precisely 8 o'clock. I always head to the break room myself, right around then, too.
This break room, to be precise?
That's correct. Our more mobile patients walk there for breakfast instead of eating in their own rooms. Then, while the nurses help the patients eat, I ask about how they feel and how the medicine is treating them.
And on the day of Wakusan's disappearance, you passed by his room before going to the break room?
Yes,
And in that room, you saw Wakusan lying on the bed.
yes.
Can you describe the situation to us as you remember it?
The door has a window, so you can see into the room from the hallway.
And this is the room you're referring to, yes?
That's correct. From where I was standing in the hallway, I could see Waku-san lying in bed. He was asleep, with a blanket covering most of his body.
And what time was that?
Around 7:50.
No further questions.
Yagami-sensei, why did you call her to the stand?
She actually asked to testify. Is that a problem?
Not really, no.
Terasawa-san, you were present for Shono-san's testimony just now, yes?
Yes.
And what is your opinion on that testimony?
For a scientist, I felt his wording was rather imprecise. And as a medical professional, I felt his actions were negligent.
Could I ask you to be a little more specific?
Our witness, Shono-san, claims he saw Waku-san sleeping in his bed during his morning rounds. However, there's no way he could have known that just by looking in from the hallway.
Our witness, Shono-san, claims he saw Waku-san sleeping in his bed during... However, I'm not convinced. Please look at this. It's a photograph of... In other words... Shono-san was lying when he said he saw Waku-san in the bed.
Excuse me?
What he saw from the door was likely nothing more than a bulge of sheets. He couldn't have been able to identify it specifically as Waku-san. So to claim as much in his testimony seems like quite an exaggeration, don't you think?
But common sense would dictate otherwise, would it not? Who would be in the bed other than Waku-san?
The staff nurses are trained to always enter a room when checking in on a patient. In Waku-san's case, it's impossible to tell anything just by looking in from the hallway. There was actually one time a while back where we thought he was under the covers, only to find Waku-san eating in the break room a second later. And upon re-examining the room, we realized that we had mistaken a bunched-up pillow for Waku-san.
The witness makes an important distinction. The prosecution asserts that Shono-san's testimony is clear, that the victim was taken out of his room at some point between 7:50 and 8:30 in the morning. They claim that because of this time frame, the defendant must have smuggled Waku-san's body out in his laundry bin. But if Shono-san's testimony is invalid, as the defense asserts, we have to consider the possibility that Waku-san was taken in the middle of the night when nobody else was around. After which, the killer could have waited until the morning to plant the body in the defendant's truck. In other words, the defense establishes that there is reasonable doubt that Okubo-san is the killer, rendering the prosecution's central argument unsound. Your Honor, taking this new testimony into account, I'd like to call Shono-san back to the stand for cross-examination. Shono-san.
Yes?
I'll get right to the point. On the day of the crime, what did you see when you looked into Waku-san's room?
I saw Waku-san asleep in his bed, I think.
And did you get a clear look at his face?
I don't remember.
So it's possible that it could have been someone other than Waku-san in that bed. Or maybe even a pillow that you mistook to be Waku-san's body. Isn't that right?
Objection! The defense is leading the witness.
Sustained. Please rephrase the question.
Shono-san, can you say without a doubt that Waku-san was in that bed when you checked on him?
I don't think I can, no.
Then the defense rests. But I do have a quick remark for the prosecution.
Huh?
Assuming the crime took place within the stated time frame. However, the defense has proven without a doubt that Shono-san's testimony is unreliable, establishing reasonable doubt for my client. I would suggest then that you withdraw the charges against my client. With such inconclusive evidence, you'll only be wasting the court's precious time.
The prosecution does not consider the witness's testimony inconclusive. His memory of the incident may be fuzzy, yes, but that doesn't change that he saw the victim.
So, your whole case is based on a fuzzy memory? This promising young man's future is at stake, and you're willing to throw that away on unreliable testimony?
Dr. Shono is a bright and diligent researcher. After watching his own grandmother develop dementia, he vowed to create a drug that could cure the disease. After paying his own way through medical school, he went on to become the head researcher at the ADDC. Day after day, Dr. Shono visits his sick patients out of the kindness of his heart, leading to his valiant testimony here today. If you want to know whether I trust this man, then my answer is a resounding yes.
In other words, because he's such a great researcher, his testimony is infallible. His own admission that he's not sure is somehow overlooked? Is that the sum of it? Because from here, it sounds like you're putting your faith in Shono-san's title, not his testimony today.
The prosecution is not as easily swayed as you think. And you want to talk reputation? What of your client's history of domestic abuse? Six years ago, the defendant broke his girlfriend's finger. The poor girl is still suffering from the effects. And the cause? A minor, drunken disagreement. Now, fast forward to what occurred a few days prior to the crime. Waku-san, suspecting the defendant of stealing his wallet, lashed out and punched the defendant in the face. Given the clearly violent nature of Okubo-san here, that alone would be motivation enough to murder the poor old...
Is something wrong, ma'am? Please remain seated while court is in session. Terasawa-san?
Okubo-san is not a violent person. And he hasn't even had a drink in over 6 years. Not a single drop since the incident.
My court will not stand for this commotion.
He didn't blame Waku-san at all. He knew that the outburst was just caused by his dementia, that it was all the sickness's fault. So there was no reason for him to resort to murder.
Terasawa-san, please.
Okubo-san really is an incredible, caring person.
Please leave this courtroom at once.
You're right that he may be hard to approach, but he's a kind soul, and he always keeps his promises. Okubo-san's not the only person in this courtroom who would be affected by a guilty verdict, either. As a matter of fact, it would break my heart. And even through it all, he wanted me to keep this a secret, not to tell anyone, not even his lawyer, that we were dating. Even though he knew he could have ended up in prison, making sure I was safe was the only thing in the world he cared about. That's just who he is. But when the prosecution has already decided he's a criminal, how could he possibly be given a fair trial?
Her little outburst wasn't technically admissible, but as the trial dragged on, it hung over the jury like a stone. And in the end, Shinpei Okubo was found not guilty. But only a month after his release, everything changed. The same girl who had so bravely proclaimed Okubo's innocence died by the man's own hand. Hi.
Something wrong?
No, it's nothing, Vice Minister.
But...
I haven't seen you in about 3 years, Kido-san. I see you're still the director.
You look familiar, but I can't quite place the name. I seem to recall you looking sharper.
I'm a detective based in Kamurocho now. The name's Yagami.
Ah, I remember now. You're the reason Terasawa-kun's no longer with us. Remember, Shono?
Okubo-san was unstoppable. If only my testimony had been better.
Shono-san, right?
Does it matter? What brings you here anyway?
I'm investigating a murder, and I'll need your cooperation with it. Just like old times.
Yes, I see. Yes. Thank you. It does seem we received a phone call from this Shintani-san you speak of.
Do you know who he was calling?
Dr. Shono.
The same Shono-san you were just with?
Yes. However, it's unclear as to what the point of the call was meant to be. Shono was away from his desk at the time, you see, and Shintani-san didn't leave a message.
You have no idea what he wanted to talk about?
None. Shono says he doesn't know a Shintani-san, and sees no reason why he would be calling.
Oh, really?
Look, Shono and I co-authored the research paper on AD9. We're quite well known, as it turns out. Sometimes, complete strangers pretend to be close friends or relatives in order to contact us. Perhaps Shintani-san fell into that category.
Have you heard of the mole murders taking place in Kamurocho, Dr. Kido? 3 Yakuza, each one with their eyes gouged out. It's a grisly business. Shintani was killed in the same way.
I've seen the news.
Can you think of anything tying the ADDC to those murders?
Huh? Look, just what are you implying? Look, I believe we're done here. There's nothing I can help you with.
Please stop! You can't!
Who are you?
Detective Kuroiwa, Kamuro Police, Organized Crime. One of your guests here has information related to the case I'm currently investigating. That would be you, Yagami.
Hmm?
I'd like to speak to you as a material witness to the murder of the lawyer Masamichi Shintani.
Is that so?